Hi, Dad. Doing an experiment here. This is my exhaust manifold, of course. It was pretty darn rusty, so I wire wheeled it. I took it into the blast cabinet, took off the majority of the rust, and now I'm just sort of painted it up with some rust converter. And then this sort of sits for a long time and converts the iron oxide to an iron phosphate. Manufacturer says you can paint over top of that, but I don't plan to do that. I'll wire wheel it back off, all the black off, and it'll be nice and clean underneath. Do a little something different on this. Instead of painting it with a high temp paint, I'm going to use a graphite paint. Not really a paint, it's just a graphite that you spray on, and it forms a dark temperature resistant coating. It'll be slippery if it needs it, but I don't think that's going to be the main thing. So there's the exhaust. Here's the intake. I painted that this morning or yesterday and put new studs in and just starting to get that pulled together and try to put all the rest of the carburetor bits together. You can see I've got most of that all put together on this mock setup here, and so yeah, making progress. There you can see after a couple hours it's very black, so I'll scrape or wire wheel all that off in the morning. Okay, that turned out pretty good. Just a little bit of wire wheeling. You can see that looks just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of this slip plate graphite lubricant. Do an experiment, see how it goes. And well, it'll be a few years before we know, but in any case, that's what I'm going to give it a go right now. All right, well, that's the look I'm going for. I thought it looks pretty decent. I put on a few coats from that slip knot stuff, or knot slip, or graphite spray. Let it dry. Then I just buffed it a little bit with a piece of a paper towel. And so what you see there is what you get. Don't know if this is gonna work or not, but it's sort of the look I'm going for, and it's not gonna burn off, at least. Whether it keeps it from rusting or not is another story. Apparently the Jeep people like using this stuff for various reasons, and so found a video or two where protecting exhaust manifolds this way, so I thought I'd give it a whirl. Yeah, I like that contrast. I think that looks good. Hopefully it lasts. All right, I've joined these and starting to do a little work on the throttle linkage. There's this little pin here that pins this containing post here, and on that rides this little elbow. I can't remember what it's called, but from here, this up here and connects to this brass piece here, and that mounts onto the throttle linkage, or the throttle bush, the throttle shaft, which connects the two carburetors. And so ultimately then this bottom piece of this elbow here has a long adjustable shaft that connects to the mechanism that's on the firewall. So basically the job of this thing is to go back and forth as you press on the gas. Problem is this thing is quite worn, and so the shaft that it rides on is worn down, and then the interior of that bush, even with all the paint that's in there, is too large. So I'm gonna go to Nick's next week, and we'll probably drill out this pin, put in another one, weld it in, braze it in, whatever we're gonna do. And then we may also drill the center part of this thing slightly oversized to fit the new pin that we put in there. And then we'll have a good surface for this to ride on So there isn't all this play in the throttle. So that's sort of one of the next things to do here. But overall, I think that looks good. I'm gonna go forward with that, and we will move this along. Well, we did. I'm putting my rocker shaft back together. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, but maybe I'm sure there's a better way of doing it than this, but you have to put these pedestals in a little bit at a time, and you need some heat to get it to go slide over. So, for example, I got this one hot, and I could slide it over 2 inches, and now I need to sort of navigate through this thing here, and so I'll have to reconfigure and move things around, and so let's keep sliding it on over. I used some baling wire there to hold them first 2 at about the right place, so I can at least get it all situated where I need it to be. So hopefully that's the right way. Well, there you go. Now that turned out not too bad. This one here is the oiling pedestal. Oil comes up from the bottom, distributes along the shaft. These are all just sort of freely rotating. This pedestal and this pedestal here are tight and needed heat to get them to slide in. This one is loose, it spins. I think that's gonna be okay. I'm gonna lubricate this up and put it away until it's time to put on the head. But so far, I'm gonna call this, without without having to need to move or do anything, a success so far. So hope you're doing okay. All right, Dad, moving on to other bits and pieces on the motor. Today I'm thinking about the clutch. So I have, this is the clutch, this is the flywheel that was on the motor that we disassembled. I'm gonna pull off the teeth here, and it's shrink fit on there, or press fit. It's one of those, cool this thing down, heat that thing up, and slide it on. So the teeth on that are a little beat up, so I'm gonna replace that. I also had 2 clutches. And this, I think, is the original to the TR3. The other one is a different style. It's actually smaller. So I think I might look at this one. Now, this one, it was very rusty, and I've wire wheeled, spent a good amount of time wire wheeling it. And so I'm going to probably soak it in some Evaporust here, or Rust 911. Try to clean up all the interior. Now, there is a procedure in the workshop manual for disassembling and reassembling, and I may do that, but I want to see how the Rust 911 comes out first. Essentially, you need the press, and you press on this, and you assemble and release all the spring tension, and then do whatever needs to get done, and then re-pressurize it. It doesn't look too bad. And I have the equipment to do that, so I may do that if I need to, but for now I think I'm just gonna clean this. So I wanted to at least wire wheel this before I did a 911 blast, because all the surface rest that I could actually remove would just kill the capacity of the 911. So I want that stuff to go spend time inside. So it'll take a few days to do this, so I just thought I'd start this morning and let it stew for a while and do its thing. So any case, that's sort of where I'm at, and I'm going to make some progress on that, and I'll show you how that turns out. All right, there it is, submerged, and we'll see how it looks. That water will turn black here soon, and as it starts to pull it out, I just got a little submersible pump in there to circulate and sort of get it all into the nooks and crannies of the clutch. See how it looks. All right, there's the clutch. That's just sitting, I guess, about 36 hours or so in the Rust 911. I just had a circulating pump, kept it a little bit warmed, rinsed it off once, and just took a wire brush to it, put it back in, rinsed it off with water, and then I just wire wheeled it on a drill bit, end of a drill, and that's it right there. It looks beautiful. I don't think I'm gonna go in and take it apart. It's just come clean. You can see residues inside here. It's a little dull surfaces in those springs, but there's really no pitting on those springs, so I think it's gonna be okay. The plate itself is slightly pitted, but I think it will also be okay. It won't take long for that to just sort of smooth out with use. So overall, I think that's good. And Dad, moving on to starter. This starter here is one that matches the motor I am restoring and the flywheel that was on it. It's dated 10/1957, so the starter or the motor that I have is off of a TR3, we figure. So this is the early style starter. It's got this bull nose on the front. They're a little bit more hard to come by than the later long ends. So I'm just starting off here. Pulled off the band here to reveal what was behind door number 1. Here, as I can tell, it looks a little bit dirty, but overall it doesn't look too bad in there. So I'm going to continue to disassemble best I can. These big Phillips screws here tend to be a pain in the butt, but I'll be able to get that with an impact driver. We'll see how it all looks. All right, talk to you later. Okay, I took off the rear bit. Looks really clean in here. The contacts are virtually new. There's lots of meat on that. I think it's supposed to be 5/32 of an inch. This is, much more than that. So that looks good. All the springs look good. They don't look. There's just the start of corrosion on a couple of them. But overall, that's going to clean up very nicely. So I'm very pleased with that. The rotator here, it's a little corroded down in here. I'll have to be able to polish that up. We'll see how well it fits into the bush. And there's one spacer shim in here. It was missing the cap that sits on the bottom of that, but I have an extra cap or 3. So I'll make sure that I have a decent bush left down in here and that it will fit here before we put it all back together. There's some measurements I can make. The top part of this here looks good. There doesn't look to be excessive wearing yet. And so overall, I think this starter is pretty good shape. So I have more disassembly to do there. I haven't done much yet in here. I'm just pull this off. I'll probably put some penetrant before I go off to work this morning to sit on those big Phillips head screws. And then I'll pull off the rest of the windings in there and see how that looks. I want to paint that all up anyway, so because sometimes you can get some corrosion. The rust builds up in here and you get some shorts across those. They're just sort of cloth wrapped windings there. So yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with how this looks so far. All right, Dad, here's that snub nose starter. Took it apart, sandblasted it or dipped it, painted it up nicely. I think I remember mentioning that when I took out the field coils, you just sort of see it down there. There's a copper strip that connected this side to that side, and that broke, and so I just used a little plumber's solder to do that. It's now put back in and cleaned up. I don't have any resistance from here to here, so it seems like the connectivity in there is okay. So the only thing I have left, I'm waiting on parts right now. I need a bush for here, an oil bush, and then I need another one for the top top of the snout. So when those come in, I'll press those in. I'll drop in that armature. I think that's the one that's called that. You can see everything looks pretty good. I had disassembled one of the newer styles, and I'll probably go ahead and paint that just so I can assemble one for myself or someone else. The field coils on that one look fine, so I think that starter will be just dandy, and then all that seems to spin nicely, and so I think overall that'll be a decent starter for someone. But for here, I'm ready to put this together. I just need the parts, so a little bit of progress. All right, continuing to knock off pieces. Here's the thermostat housing. I polished that up. I just use this rouge, the red and white. I think it's the brown, but that's okay. This is sort of what it looked like before. Maybe a little worse than that, but didn't take too much to have it come out okay. So that's about the level of polish that is sort of my top end. I don't really want it to be a mirror, but I also want it to look nice. It's got a little coating of wax from the polish, so it should be okay for a while. And yeah, there we go. What I did, I think I'm gonna finish up this montage of videos here. There's the starter I've been working on. It's just about ready. As soon as the oil bushes come in, I'll put those in and get that finished. I have a little bit of machine work to do with Nick, getting those throttle linkage bits right. They're too loose and too worn right now. And so, but I thought I'd end this one because all of the motor machine shop work is done on the engine. So I'm gonna pick that up tomorrow. So I'll start up something new. I've been splitting my time between finishing up bits to get ready for the engine, and Midge is gonna see her first car show this weekend, so I'm changing out the fuel pump. I put on a aftermarket fuel pump, and it bounces and it thumps constantly, and I keep thinking I'm out of gas, so I'm going to put on a proper fuel pump before I head out there. Everything else looks okay. I cleaned out the air filter. That was just okay. There was nothing wrong with that there. Put on the glove compartment inside here. It's gone back in. The process of pulling out the hoses, all this sanding, sanding dust just poured out of there. So yeah, not like the heat works anyway. So, but in any case, next time I bring you a video, it'll be some carburetor work here on the Midge here, and then also as we start to put the engine together on the TR3. So hope you're doing okay, and we'll be back in touch.